Hi, welcome to Ladies Talk Show. This is Leah Richheimer. We are in chapter 6. We're on page 126. I'm going to read 2 sections and then we're going to take your questions. We're talking about control. This is a hard topic. I get it. Okay. And for those of you who are binge watching, because I get the emails all the time, I binge watch every show, over the course of a week. For those of you who are binge watching, and this is going to feel pretty heavy because you're watching show after show together about control. But here's what you have to know. As you work on this, not only are you building closeness with your husband, you are going to watch, like right in front of your eyes, your stress level go down and down and down. Because what we don't realize, when we have to have control, when things don't go our way and things don't go the way we plan them and we whatever, that ratchets it up our stress level to crazy things for dumb stuff. Like, sometimes you find a pillow and you're like, oh, I love this pillow. And then you go to every one of those stores to find the same one and you only find 3 and you need 2 for you've got 2 couches facing each other and you need 4 and you didn't get the pillow. I mean, this is the stupidest example ever, but I'm just saying these things, then you get all riled up that didn't go the way you wanted. And how really crucial is it to your happiness? Not very. And we use this issue of control to keep our relationships from being close. So, okay, we're getting there. We're working on this day at a time. We're on the ladder going up instead of down. So we're working on it. That's good for us. Okay. This is Marriage Secrets, chapter 6, page 126, exceptions to the rule. So the rules about control that we've been talking about. The bottom line is, it is only following our husband's will that brings blessing. This is quite clear from our sources, right? Of course. However, when I was giving this over in a shiur, one of my genius students asked me, Leah, if that's true, why did Sarah tell Abraham to send Ishmael away and Hashem himself concurred? If we're supposed to follow our husband's will, right? Like, hello, right? That's a bad example. And why did Rivka make sure that Yaakov received the blessing from Yitzhak instead of Esau? Right? Isn't this hello? I see everyone's smiling, happy, like, yes, go for the women. Okay, let's get the control. They were certainly not following the will of their husbands. That is precisely the moment when a teacher wishes, this is a student asking me, it's precisely the moment when his teacher wishes that the bell would ring ending class. And everybody has to race out of the room. Unfortunately for me, there was no bell as it was Shabbos. Heaping praise on the question asker was all I could think to do at the moment. But now I was charged with a very big mission. Did I ever mention that I learned the most from my student? Lucky for me, Rabbi Asher Weiss was in my town and I was able to secure an appointment. Rabbi Weiss, I asked, after reading the rabbi my list of sources, if it's true that a wife should, those sources I just told you, if it's true that a wife should do the will of her husband, isn't that a contradiction to the examples from our matriarchs, Sarah and Rivka? Rabbi Weiss answered, in the Torah way, a woman should have utmost respect for her husband. Doing the will of her husband is the foundation and starting point of a Jewish marriage. It is the proper Jewish ethic, but it is understood that there are exceptions based on the complexity of relationships and circumstances. Ladies, don't use this to get yourself off the hook from giving up control. Okay. Further, this general guideline is for people who are psychologically healthy. If that's not the case, then they need to consult a rabbi or a professional. But it must be understood that a tzedekah does not always have to say yes, yes, yes. A man can make mistakes just like a woman can make mistakes. And a woman is not only entitled to correct him, she also bears the responsibility sometimes to put her foot down and to think, you're making a mistake and I want to help you and steer you in the right direction. And that is legitimate. Following the will of your husband is not a halacha pshuta. These are values, ethics, recommendations, and directions that Chazal convey. but there are many exceptions and many details. It's not concrete, it's not fixed, and therefore there is no contradiction to what Chazal are teaching about following the will of her husband. He continues, yes, some of the greatest women in our tradition had their say with some of the greatest men in our tradition. The women always have to say, yes? A woman doesn't. I was like, what? I'm doing it all wrong. A woman doesn't have to always say yes to whatever her husband says, even if her husband is a great man. She is still entitled, and not only entitled, even obliged to speak up when she really feels that she has a point, to try to convey that point. But this should be the exception. This is the operative word here, ladies. This should be the exception. So I don't think there's any contradiction. A woman should try to make her husband the king of the family, but sometimes a queen has her say, and we expect the king to listen carefully to what his queen has to say. So basically, his point is bolstering everything we're talking about, which is that a woman should listen to her husband and follow his will most of the time. And then when it's important to her, he should listen to her. He will listen to her more. And when I use the word should, you have to understand one thing. Why are we doing this? Because we should do it? Yeah, that's true. But there's a bigger reason that speaks to the heart of a woman. And that is because when we give up this control, we get closeness. We gain closeness, which is deeply, even if we don't really realize it, and even if we deny it, and if we push it away and don't want to admit it, closeness is far more important to a woman than control ever would be. And that's what the 70 years of the women's movement. I'm not anti-feminist. Listen to all my shows. You will see I consider myself at the forefront of breaking the glass ceiling for women, one of the women. I was on the team. Okay. But it did put in our brain that we need control, and that's the ultimate, and that's the most important. And what we really need more than anything is closeness and connection. Okay, let's go to the next one. A blessed decision. We have some beautiful sources here also. So what does this mean for us in practical terms? It's that we are meant to follow our main ethical guidelines about following our husband's will, yet we must use our Bini Yisera to very carefully judge when it's the correct time to make our opinions heard. And to do that in a way that our husband will truly listen to what we have to say. We're on page 128, middle of it. We should aim to fulfill our role as Ezer Kenegdo, which means a helpmate opposite him. Opposite means that at times we take the opinion opposite our husband, but only to improve the outcome, not to win the argument or in order to feel superior to him. It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we know better, because usually we do. Haha, that was a joke. That's not in the book. Probably because men edited this and cut it out. No, joking. It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we know better, so we should always get our way about everything. But Chazal are clearly indicating that much blessing, and from what I've witnessed with my students, much serenity will come from making our husbands king and listening to his wishes. If we think about it, we would all likely agree that it is much better to have a blessed decision rather than a correct decision. As we've all likely witnessed, sometimes we do ill-advised things on a whim and it turns out just fine or better. Our intelligence does not guarantee great results. Only seeking shalom does. Which means that even a wrong decision can turn right if there's shalom in the home. So Rabbi Ben Zion Abba Shal writes that Hashem's main will is that shalom, harmony between man and a wife, supersedes tzedek, which is justice, meaning keeping the peace is more important than having your decisions prevail. This is not what we this is not to say that we should hang up our brain and follow blindly, since we are, after all, created as an Ezer Kenegdo, a helpmate opposite our husband, and we will discuss how to relinquish control while at the same time conveying our indispensable input. But because we deeply understand how crucial Hashem's blessing is in our life, we must take his instructions about how to attain that blessing very seriously. And even though these sources were a giant wake-up call to me personally, as I frankly believe that control should be shared equally between a husband and wife, how could I ignore Hashem's own instructions as to how to get his blessing? Meaning, if it's equal, that's not getting Hashem's blessing. It's when we follow our husband's will that blessing is bestowed on the household. Very hard to hear, but in practice, very satisfying, very fulfilling, very stress reducing. Watch and see. Try it. Try this at home. As we can extrapolate from our sources, the problem in our modern society is that there is unfortunately a great deal of confusion about who wears the proverbial pants in the family. I know I may sound like a throwback to the olden days by articulating it this way, but can you honestly say with sincerity that you believe that there should be two kings living in one household? I don't think that was necessarily society's intent by moving toward equality, but in a sense, that's what remains in its aftermath. Whew. Rabbi Gershon Bess explains, there is no question that in order for a household to run properly, there has to be one leader. So the ultimate authority has been given to the husband, as the Torah states, I will make a helpmate opposite him. That also doesn't mean that a husband always acts correctly. A dictator may have the authority, but he may still be a dictator. This is still Rabbi Bess' quote. The Torah expects the wife to voice concerns and for the husband to be a mensch and consider her opinions, but ultimately, two leaders can cause a family to live in discord. Means there's one leader. And ladies, it ain't us. Okay, I told it like it is. Okay, which seems bad, but the beauty is that once you give over the leadership to your husband, you've got the serenity of just living life and savoring life and having full joy. For the most part, it's not like everything will go perfect, but try this at home. Okay, Faggy, let's start with the first question.
Okay, so Mindy's asking, my husband and I have separated different areas in which we have control. A very simple example is home decor. I have full control in that area. He doesn't give his opinion unless I ask. Is this a healthy way for us to split our roles and control in a healthy way?
Beautiful. As long as both of you have agreed at the beginning, I find with some of these discussions, the woman says it like it is. I'm in charge of this, you're in charge of that, end of story. So that would be bad. But if you guys have had a really good communication about it and good talking and figured out, and and both of you are totally happy with it, and it's not her dictating how it should be, but it's decided together, go for it. Great. Good job. Excellent. Next question.
Hey, Serena is asking, how can we be strong like our matriarchs, but also respectful of our husband's need for control? Thinking of Tzipporah taking charge and doing Brit Milah on her son, Rachel demanding Yaakov to give her children, Leah naming all her children, etc.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, but you have to understand, even with, in all of these matriarchs, they are doing, 10,000 things of following their husband's will. Lech lecha. So Sarah just picks up and goes, they're doing everything, 10,000 things to follow their husband's will. And one thing like this. So it's not even proportional. It's ridiculous to even say, this is how they are. No, their whole way of being was following our Masorah from Har Sinai for 3,000 years. Jewish women and our matriarchs have all been following exactly what it is to be a Jewish wife, which is to follow her husband's will. These exceptions that they're writing about and showing, show the opposite. So women be emboldened and let's be like that. But no. You have to look at the proportions. It's like 0.0001% of the time they're putting their foot down, and I don't do the math, 99999.9999, whatever, they're following their husband's will. And that's what we should be doing also. That's at least we should be aspiring to be and working towards. And then when the exceptions come, the husband hopefully will acquiesce, and or if he doesn't, then that's a time to put our foot down. But again, it's the proportions have to be right. Okay, good. Next question, Faggy. Great questions, guys.
So Avital says, I grew up in a society and around friends where the ideal is when the woman wears the pants in the relationship, and that's what is praised and looked up to. Because of that, it's embarrassing to me to publicly give my husband control. When we're alone, obviously, I have no problem doing it, but when my friends are over, I actually do the opposite. I become controlling. How can I work on this when it's so deeply ingrained in me?
Excellent, beautiful question. So first of all, I first want to acknowledge you for the work you're doing for control, that behind closed doors or when it was just you and your husband, you're able to do it. That's hopefully that's strengthening you in your ability to also be able to do it in public. So kol hakavod, very, very good. Congratulations on your good work so far. You know, I want to say something, and I'm so hesitant to say it because it's a little harsh. But sometimes, you know, if you say something harsh, then in other words, I'm saying it harsh not to be mean to you, but I'm saying it harsh to you so it'll ring in your head when the time comes. So please understand, I'm doing this out of kindness to you to make it easier for you to do what I'm about to tell you. Okay, so if you can hear it in that way, which is that if you realize you controlling or barking orders to your husband in public is doing the avera of embarrassing someone publicly, which is like murder, right? Because blood comes to a person's face, just like when you kill them, you know, there's blood. The blood comes to their face. So if you can visualize that when you're saying harsh things to him, or you're belittling him, or making him feel like you're controlling your own husband, that it's a very, very serious avera, and you will pay for it in some way. See, I told you it was going to be harsh, but the reason I'm doing this is so that in the very moment when you have a ingrained habit to put him down or to control him in public or whatever, you need to have an equally harsh, big, horrible thing in front of you to be able to control yourself. So that's why I said it so harshly. If that works for you, some people that's very powerful, frightening thing to work. If that doesn't work for you, the other aspect of it is that we all want to look up to our man. We all want a husband that everybody else looks up to, and that our children look up to, and it's like, I married him, we all have that. I mean, we don't act that way. A lot of times we put them down and we say, I can't believe it wasn't Tuesday, it was Wednesday afternoon. We're constantly embarrassing them in public and doing, not doing the correct thing to bring out the best in them. And if you want to build your husband and to have him be better at everything in his life, better at taking care of you, better at earning parnasa, better at being a father, better at driving, better at being good to his parents. If you want to bring out the best in your husband, the number one way to do that is by respecting him and raising him up. And that every time you are just to be part of the crowd, like everyone's barking orders at their husbands like they're so powerful and to show off how strong they are. If on the other hand, you are incredibly respectful to your husband, I mean, like swing the pendulum completely to the opposite direction, even if you have to fake it till you make it. And say, I need the diaper bag. I'm going to get it. And then he'll say, I've got it for you. Right. Look how gorgeous that is. Look at the example that is for everybody else. So this is something to work on. It's definitely Navot. It's definitely hard. It's definitely uphill, but you'll get to the top of the hill and then it'll be easier, God willing. So, but the main thing for you to internalize is to recognize the damage that you're doing both to your husband and his stature in his own eyes, which is crucial to his being able to fulfill his shleimus in this world, his perfection and his goodness in this world, and his fulfilling his potential, I guess you'd say. So you're damaging that, but you're also embarrassing him in public, and you're not setting example for other people. So there's a lot to work with here, and hopefully I've given you some tools to contemplate and mull over, that some of them will kick in and you will find yourself doing better actions just because you realize that there's so many bad ramifications that you have no interest in it. What your actions are not meeting your ultimate goal. Your ultimate goal is to grow him and to raise him up and to be closer and to get Hashem's blessing and Hashem to shine on you and Hashem to be happy with you and you to be happy with yourself and him to be, and your husband to be happy with you. That's your goals, and your actions are doing exactly the opposite. So hopefully that dichotomy will give you strength to grow in this area. And I'm very impressed that you are even contemplating growing in this area. And I wish you hatzlacha. Beautiful, beautiful question. Okay, Fagi. Next question.
Okay, so Shira wants to know, my husband never asks me for permission when he goes out, but expects me to always ask him because I'm home with the kids. So practically speaking, I have to ask him so he can know to be home to watch them. This really frustrates me and I feel resentful of his freedom. Is this an area of control I should be letting go of?
Fagi, what is your understanding of that? That she has to say where she's going at all times, and he doesn't have to say where he's going at all times? Is that what the problem is? You're nodding your head.
It's probably not that he doesn't have to, he just doesn't. He feels like he doesn't have to. That's what bothers her.
Right. So he just leaves the house without saying goodbye.
Right. Or even asking permission, like, is it a good time to go out now? Maybe do you need help with the kids? Probably that's what you would probably want, rather.
Right. This is so complicated and so fraught with so many things. So, I mean, if she's working full time and he's working full time, then they have certain obligations in the home different than if she's full-time mom and he's working full time. And even if she's working part-time or she's working, a little bit on the side or something like that, that really that's really crucial to know, because then if she's a full-time mom and she has a housekeeper and she has, whatever, she's coming and, she has all her kids are in school, for instance, or something, and her responsibilities aren't crazy insane, he probably shouldn't be doing very much child watching at all. He work, they divvy up the thing. Maybe he wants to do it, maybe he, whatever. If she's working also, then he has to do more care. So that whole, there's so many variables there. It's hard to answer this question straight. But let's just say, for instance, she is working full-time. She's a full-time mom. If that's the case, then if he comes and goes without consulting her, that's not very nice. It's like, it's not derech eretz. It's not polite. Is it horrible? I mean, I don't know. It depends on how else he treats her in general. But for an issue like that would definitely be something that you can talk to your husband about and say, sometimes, I don't hear you leaving. And I'm like, Moishi, I need Moishi, whatever, and it's just feels uncomfortable. Is there a way we can, you can let me know that you're going out, just saying hello and goodbye? There actually is sources that a man is required to do that, especially coming in the house. He has to knock very loudly so he doesn't startle her or make her think she's, the robbers coming in the house or something like that. Maybe, I don't know whether it's for safety reasons or other halachic reasons, but that's not hers to enforce or whatever. The main point here is the woman has to ease him into whatever she wants him to do. She can't force it to him. She can't confront him with it. She can't fight him with it. She has to use her creativity and her bini yasera to try and ease him into the behaviors she wants. Resenting him and being angry at him for her not having the freedom he has. Well, if she's a stay-at-home full-time mom, yes, he'll have more freedom than she will, and she gets to, she has the joy of motherhood or whatever you call it. It's a lot of work. I'm with you, but it's very, very crucial for a woman to have a ability to communicate these things with her husband. And we're getting a lot more communication in coming chapters, but it's very important that a woman has a ability to communicate these things with her husband in a way that he can hear it. If she says it like chastising him and yelling at him and so forth, it's not going to go well. But if she, uses her creativity to come up with ways to ease him into the conversation, that's what we'd want to be doing. So for this, I would really, if I were her, do some introspection on why she resents him for this. It's not nice. And what, maybe take out a journal, make a notebook, and write down different things she could say to him that she thinks he can work. So that will work. So she might write down, tell him that it makes me want to cry when he leaves and I don't know. That probably will make him annoyed. Tell him that I really love him and I like to know what's happening in the cat house. I tell the kids when they come home from school, they have to come say hello to me. I'd appreciate that common courtesy. Whatever, write all these ideas down, then figure out how to present them to your husband in a way that he can hear. And take slow, don't attack, just sit with it a few days. After you get it down on paper, sit with it a few days, think, maybe that would backfire. Okay, so that is the answer to that. And this is going to go into your homework for the week, which is one time, think of something you are currently communicating to your husband that you do in a naggy way or an annoying way or a way that has not being productive. Okay. And write down 10 things you could possibly do that might make it productive. It's a very good exercise. We'll get into more in the communication, but I think for right now, when we're talking about the control issue, it's hard to let go when you don't know what it's going to look like. And if you visualize in your mind different scenarios of how it'll look when you let go of that control, it may give you more strength to have the power to let go of that strength. Okay, it's Leah Richheimer. Thank you for joining us. Can't wait to see you next week.